Oh.
You can't.
Yeah, for a minute. It was a very long gap for me.
It's like it's a trap. My car guy.
No, that was for previous meeting.
See if we can work something out to bring in that car show to the.
Oh, okay.
You get some time. Let's see if it's something that could be, we meet on Friday. It's almost next Friday.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for the record, I'm calling the meeting of February 26th of 2025 to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf.
Here.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Here.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman. Yes. Mrs. Porter.
Yeah. Thank you. We have quorum. Thank you, visitors, for attending this evening. If you've not already done so, please sign in and get a copy of the agenda. There will be opportunities to speak. The 2 points in the agenda. Labeled visitor comments. Minutes will be recorded and provided to council for review. Meeting minutes are official once they are approved by village council by a majority vote. Today's minutes will be made available once approved and posted in this office, the post office, and made available online. Next item is approval of minutes. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the minutes for January 22nd of 2025 council meeting.
So moved.
I'll second. I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Stoner. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman. Yes. Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes. The motion passes. I'm now seeking a motion for approval of the minutes for the February 12th, 2025 council meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Council Member Nauer and a second from Council Member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Abstain.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter. Yes. Mrs. Chapman. Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. And finally, I'm seeking a motion for approval of minutes for February 19th, the combined council committees meeting.
Motion.
Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Councilmember Stoner. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman. Yes. Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
I abstain.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Each department in the village provides routine updates to village council and the public. Tonight, we will receive an update from Chief Brooks from the police department.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening.
Like,
Looks like I got a bunch of stuff, but I don't. It's just in case you have any questions, I'm prepared to.
Thank you.
Hello.
that's better.
Okay, I'll try to do this without glasses, so I'm gonna have to hold that out there. I don't know how much I've kept everybody informed of our in-car cameras and our body cameras, but both of those are now active and in service, so. We've already getting requests for that kind of stuff, so. But those are up and running. I did want to address the big scare of the shooting the other night is accidental shooting in the foot. I know it kind of takes a story of its own once it hits Facebook and gets people kind of stirred up, but it was an accidental shot in the foot. Same with our bomb. We had a gentleman come down and report that he had a couple grenades. Well, but they were smoke grenades and mace grenades, so it wasn't any kind of explosive, but we did have the bomb squad out here, and brings me to the next thing. I'll give a shout out to Brittany. She's been doing a real good job for us on these press releases, so trying to get the information out, not as it's happening, but as soon as it's over, just so we don't invite people to come down into the scene, but that's, we've had a couple now, and it's doing real good. She definitely works things way better than I would have, so thank you for that. She does a really good job. So that's something you'll probably see more of. It seems to be a good idea, and it's working. Stop some of the rumor mills before they get too out of control. I think we've all experienced that, know what I'm talking about, how that can go. I brought once I get beyond here, I'm gonna need glasses, but, first meeting I've been to since the annual report was released, so brought a copy of that in case anybody has any questions about that. And I also brought the first report of the year for the police department, so we just open it up to have any questions I can answer about the annual report. All right.
Quite fun.
The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm really gonna put Sergeant Oliver on the spot to come out and talk about it a little bit, but some training he attended, and rather than me try to explain to you what it was, and have a guy who went through it to come up and talk about it. West Licking Fire had their training where you have an active shooting situation and things evolve over time. You go back to Columbine, what was the cop's role? You stand outside and you wait for the SWAT team. Well, after that, we realized you can't do it that way. And then, so now we all put little teams together, we go in, well, fire's kind of doing the same thing. Just can't wait for us to get in and secure the entire building before they start trying to treat people. So the training was along the same lines as what we would be doing. We needed to see what they are doing so that we're all on the same page, so.
I think you just did.
He really didn't want to come up here, so I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna get to do this much longer, so I'll take advantage of it, so. Go ahead.
Hello,
We're not.
everybody. Yeah, the training was, Saturday at Casco Grace Church, and it was RTF training, which stands for rear to front. And it's essentially law enforcement's role in escorting fire into an active situation and guarding them while they start to triage people and get casualties out of the area. So that's pretty much what it was. It was real beneficial. So it's some knowledge that I want to pass on to our guys and some training we'll be putting on later this year. And we're thrilled to get the invite and good stuff.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch where it was you put the training.
It was, so West Licking Fire put it on, and it was in conjunction, they had all of their guys there, and then also the Licking County Sheriff's Office SWAT team was there. So they worked with us individually on some single officer tactics and things like that, and then we did the RTF training, and it was at Pataskala Grace Church. Yep.
To add on to that,
Mhm.
one of the guys that was a part of the Hebron group, the 10 firefighters, one of them was there that night. And he says that, you know, of course, everybody was nervous as all get out, but he says he turned around one time and saw a police officer against him this way and one this way. He says, I felt safe as it.
Yeah, yeah.
They went ahead and did their thing and everything went, they couldn't ask for anything to
Yeah.
get better.
That's basically, yeah, you go into an area with casualties and they make it like an orange zone. It becomes an orange zone, and then an officer stays there, but then another team brings the medics in. There's one in front of them, a group of 4 or 5, and one in the back. And they, they have their vests on and stuff, and they escort them in there, and an officer always stands in the orange area to guard them just in case, because there's other teams going elsewhere to look for the threat. And then if that threat were to come back into the room, at least there's an officer there to engage if need be, so. Yeah. Pretty good stuff.
I see on the fire runs with it, it just comes across as behavioral.
Mhm.
You guys go with the squad on that.
Yeah, typically on those are situations, a lot of times suicidal people, they'll call those behavioral. Somebody that's just unfortunately on drugs, sometimes they'll call those behavioral as well, because we don't really know what's going on, they're just acting not themselves. So, yeah.
I know when I was on the squad, if we even sensed that, we didn't go in unless.
Yeah. Yeah, it just depends on the circumstances, sometimes they'll stage and wait for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
All done? Are you good?
Yeah. I think so.
That was fun. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question, Chief.
Yes.
Any interest in the future of doing some combined training with local churches as far as security team? I know at least at Hebron Naz, they had somebody come in and take over their service and had to be forcibly removed last year. So.
I'm sure we could work something like that. I would need a little more detail about what you're looking for, but, yeah, I have no problem coming up with plans to help out in those areas. Sure. No? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
You normally have this time reserved for visitor comments, but we have no visitors, so I'm gonna skip that. The next item is legislation. And, the first item is ordinance 02-25. It's an ordinance to amend the village zoning map and rezone parcels known as Refugee Road Southeast, West Main Street, and 952 West Main Street, Hebron, Ohio 43025, and more specifically identified as auditor's parcel numbers. That was a big sigh. 075-344-904-00.00. Parcel number 075-344-904-00.004. Parcel number 334-904-000.002. Parcel number 075-344-904-00.005, and parcel number 075-344-904 003. This is the second reading. I'm gonna nominate somebody else to read this next time. Okay. The next item is resolution 25-02. And that's a resolution declaring support of the council of the village of Hebron, Ohio, for the preservation of the federal tax exemption of municipal bonds. This is the first reading. We received information from OML indicating that the current status of tax exemption for municipal bonds is up for debate. And we were encouraged, and our team, the executive side, thought it was a great idea for us to support and lend our voice to articulating our concern about the loss of that exemption. Debbie, could you speak to, I think you and I talked a little bit about, maybe we're not leveraging it at this moment, but it's certainly something that we benefit from if we ever need it.
Yes, currently we just have 2 bonds, and we typically try not to use those as a funding source, but they're there if we would need them. And if that tax exemption goes away, then it creates less and less bond people who want to issue bonds, because they're not going to get that tax exemption. And then when you have less bond issuers, then the rates start going up. So it could be very impactful if they take that away.
Thank you. Any questions from council? The next item is ordinance 03-25. It's an ordinance to amend the codified code section of 933.05, the codified code section of Title 9, titled Pretreatment Program Fees. This is the first reading. Do you want to speak to that?
I reported to council that our fee structure needs to be reviewed and updated on an annual basis, and this is the first attempt that we try to keep it up to date.
The next item is council action items, and the first item of that is the appropriation amendments. We discussed those in combined committees last week. But certainly if you have any questions, maybe after reflecting on that, we can get those answered for you. Otherwise, we're seeking a motion to direct the solicitor to draft legislation for the appropriation amendments.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Carpenter. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter? Yes. Mrs. Chapman? Yes. Mr. Allen?
No,
The motion passes. The next item is the Licking County bulk water agreement. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, this is the renewal of the existing agreement, which would expire this year. And we, the village has been working on this since 23. I think all of the elements, both sides have agreed in terms of the volume, which is 175,000 gallons per day. And then it's gonna be 5 years, and then that can be renewal up to 15 years. So we're asking the council to direct the solicitor to draft legislation approving this agreement.
Thank you. Any questions?
on the final version there, do we have anything? Like where the mayor's agreement is, it says any cancellation notice shall be at least 2 years before the cancellation. We don't put something like that in that.
I think right now we change that to 1 year.
Okay,
Yes,
and the only thing I think we should charge more than what we charge the village people. Good, good.
Well, your opinion is just as valid as everyone else's, right? So let's talk about that a little bit because I'd like to get my arms around it. So when I came into office, we were in a much different position. We were looking at, I think, a 10% discount.
Yes.
And so we negotiated up to the same rate as those who are in the village pay. We do not have the expense of the pipe. So we're not actually paying for the pipe between that master and everything else after that. We're not paying for the meters. We're not paying for the effort for, putting in the taps. We're not doing the maintenance, the billing, any of that. So our actual cost for delivery is significantly less than the individuals within the village.
Well, I'm looking at villages make that water, and sooner or later, we're gonna have to make another building out there to help pay for everything. And that's what I was looking for the future for that. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear what you're saying. I guess my thought is we aren't anywhere near capacity. And we were looking at possibly getting close to 70% when we initially had dialogue with Microsoft, but they've clawed that back tremendously. And so right now we have essentially an underutilized asset.
Right.
And so this is an opportunity for us to make back some of the money that we've got invested in there. Now, if we have a big water consumer come in the door after this, then that opens that dialogue back up. And maybe you can speak to, do you feel like we are anywhere near that we would need to expand that at this point?
not at this point in time, because we had just finished the water consumption projection. In 2030, I think we're only reaching about 65%. So we have capacity right now, absolutely, yeah.
I was just looking down the road, the building is
Yes,
gonna need updated, and I thought, well.
Yep.
Good time to get jump on, because this has been, an agreement seems like since 1991.
Yes,
You know, times have changed, you know, everything's moving.
Yeah.
Well, if I could speak to that.
Yeah.
We actually had. Was it there, speaking, addressing your concern about if there was a plan expansion. Potentially entering into cost sharing measures. At the time, they were unwilling to agree to that.
Okay,
I think the discussion was at a future date, once we start getting higher and higher in our capacity. We could revisit it.
okay.
Is this contract renegotiable when circumstances change?
Sure, yeah, it's, the renewal has to be mutual by both parties. If we are not in a position where we want to renew in 5 years, it would be renegotiation of the agreement. Or suddenly there's 200,000 gallons of water users that no longer have the source of water. So, yeah, at some point, if we are needing to renegotiate it, we'll have the ability to do so.
at the minimum, at the end of the 5 years, we will renegotiate at the minimum.
Yeah.
But in between before we get to that 5 years, when we realize that we are in the crunch time, yes, and we will notify them a year ahead of time. We will renegotiate the agreement. So there are clause in there for us to renegotiate, yes.
The only thing I'm worried about is somebody else coming in with a big water line and saying, you don't need Hebron anymore, here, take ours.
And that's in the agreement that we are the sole water provider. So
For the
there,
entire term of use.
it's quite,
We are the sole water provider for the
Yes.
entire term.
and
But strong arming them to get more money out of the project ensures they will start seeking another
Yeah.
alternative, whether it be building their own or negotiating with another organization. So finding a spot that is responsible for Hebron, but also respectful to the county, I think
Right.
is a wise approach if we can do it.
You really can't charge them more than what you would charge bulk water anyway, so, I mean, legally, I guess. That right or not?
I mean, we could.
You could, but. They're technically an outside user. They are, so.
I was just thinking 2 cents, you know, 2 cents down the road by.
No, I know what you're saying, I mean, but then they're charging their customers for the lines and their everything too, so.
Sure. Yeah, they're charging double, triple, so
Not really, but.
I know double. My wife used to live. Okay,
but point well taken, absolutely.
I need a motion. Yeah, but I want to say one more thing. I'm trying to figure out how to frame it. I think it's really important as we go into these processes that today, while you're still thinking about it and it's still top of mind, say out loud, whether it's off to the side with me alone, that's fine, but say out loud what it is you feel you could have negotiated, right? Like, I'm not presuming to know exactly what you feel comfortable with. But if you tell me, then I have a better chance of trying to hit that goal. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this, because we are trying very hard to work closely with the county, so both parties are happy with the outcome. I don't wanna come up here and disappoint you, so if you tell me what you're looking for, at least I'll have a target.
I missed the meeting, so.
I'm just gonna knock on your door. So yes, I am seeking a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Councilmember Stoner. Any further discussion?
Can we state that motion for the record? What the motion is?
Yeah, Jared, you want to state what that motion is?
Yes, so you were seeking a motion authorizing the village solicitor to draft legislation authorizing the mayor to execute a bulk water agreement on behalf of the village. That was said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a team effort up here.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Nauer,
Yes,
Mrs. Chapman. Yes. Mrs. Porter. Yes.
Thank you, it passes. The next item is the administrator's report.
I have a couple updates for the council. One is that, there was an employee resigned from the Public Works, so we have the equipment operator, one position that is currently available. The second thing is that the historic sign in front of the insurance agency on East Main, that we will take it down to take it to Marietta to get it refurbished for a short period of time.
What is that? I'm sorry.
The historic sign in front of the insurance agency on East Main Street.
Oh, the actual sign.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the brass sign, that's correct. And then thirdly is that council member Porter mentioned that we had the vents at the records building, the slats were broken, they got fixed this morning. So just to let you know, we try to respond to what you've seen out there. Now, the pre-treatment inspection started today. They've had scheduled 7 companies they are visiting to go through the pre-treatment procedures. And well, number 7, civil design has been developed, and we're hoping that we will have the final design ready to bid out, and that was part of the appropriation amendment that the Mrs. Morgan put together, which is about 480, not more close to $500,000 for the well house. That is for the well house. And then we're waiting for the last words from the contractor as far as the drilling of the well number 7 to see if they have gotten the ODNR approval on that or not. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item is council member reports. Council member Porter, would you like to start?
No, but I will. Looking ahead a month or 6 weeks to the weather being more constant. There are so much work has to be done on the streets. The streets are just in deplorable condition. Just deplorable. And we've got to get on it or they're gonna be more deplorable. We can't afford to wait and wait, no, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we gotta get on it.
And they have patched up a lot of the potholes on Arrowhead Drive. And they're going to be focusing on refuge and other streets. Yes,
Because on refugees, you're coming around the corner.
yes, absolutely.
There's one
That's correct.
And trying to avoid it gets you in the middle of the street with oncoming
Yes.
traffic, which isn't too healthy.
Sure.
And so that really has to be done. There's really no excuse for not putting some kind of fill in, at least temporarily.
I understand. That's what they'll be working on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see on your list here where you've got the permits and everything. I don't see Farmer Source on there.
The pre-treatment.
Oh, the pre-treatment.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Backing up there.
Yeah,
What are
you
you
are.
talking about?
I'm sorry.
It is, I don't believe they are the company in the pre-treatment program. I'll find that out.
It probably ought to be.
Yep, I'll find that out.
They deal with a lot of epoxies and that for that. What do I say, the Kevlar helmets?
Yes, correct.
Councilmember Porter, was that all you had?
Yes.
Thank you.
The only thing I had is the old Bowman building. They're working on the siding and doing all that, and it's looking really great. Is there a politically correct way we could suggest like some shrubbery out front to make it prettier and not see the cars in a very polite way?
So, politically correct isn't how we roll around here. We deal in, our code enforcement. Do you want to talk a little bit about the work you're doing there? Ron at Ron's Auto, and I have been trying to work together to come up with some compromises. It has been a struggle.
Okay, because they're improving, they're making nice
Yes.
siding and.
We ended up communicating with the owner of the building and doing a walkthrough and explaining the things that are required to be taken care of for them to continue to do business in the village. One of those was repairing the siding, getting the rotted pumpkins that have been there for 2 years out of the front of the building, removing parts and pieces of vehicles, the drums and the storage that was happening towards the back of the property. You'll see them hauling that out as of right now. All of that has to be gone. There is an air handling unit, on the east side of their building that is to be completely removed, before this spring. And then they have taken out probably close to 20 different vehicles that have sat there for an extended period of time. So
Gonna replace them, right?
that is the goal, and if they are replaced, it's because they're there to get work done and then leave that space. So we are working closely with them. We're seeing progress, but as you see, they've done a lot and there's still a lot to do. When it comes to screening of the property, we chatted with them about some fencing options for the west side of their building. They're still working on some solutions there. We are limited in our code. Our code really talks about loading and unloading and service areas. And then luckily where this is located is abutting to a lot of residential property. So we have some space there. So we're working through some solutions and hopefully they're gonna have some things to present to us very soon.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's just the nature of them, is cars are gonna come and go and sit there, so it's
Absolutely.
easier just to block them than.
completely agree. Now, also because of how close their lot is to the intersection of, is that Sixth Street? What am I thinking? No, what am I thinking right there? Is it Sixth? Okay. There's also some issues with visibility as well, so we have to be mindful of that, and we've chatted through that a little bit.
And I think have plans for mowing that lot that's just on the diagonal corner, which would be on North Street and Seventh.
So they should maintain that. There is a big portion, so the corner lot is theirs. There is a big portion of right of way that is not theirs, and it goes all the way to north into Scott Jacobs' property. So that'll be something we'll probably need to address, but yes, they should know that. They hate to see me coming, so they're gonna try to avoid that at all costs at this point.
Thank you.
We're working on it. Thank you.
Before you go,
Yes.
I just had an observation that concerned me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm happy to see what they're doing there, but, you talked about the 55-gallon drums and that they're cleaning out. Has anybody checked those for hazardous waste? Because they parked them in the center on a trailer, and that sure brings the appearance, and I'm sure it could make some concerns from some of the residents.
Yeah, so in there, it is material or liquids that they utilize to do business, so oil and all of those things. That's why it cannot be stored outside, one of the primary reasons. So I know that there is liquid being used in there, but it cannot be stored outside primarily, and that's really the limit to my authority when it comes to that. Now, they shouldn't be dumping it, they shouldn't be doing anything with it outside, draining it or anything like that.
This week, there was a 55-foot trailer out there full of 55-gallon drums.
Yes, that's probably the third or fourth one that's had to go through to take them out and remove them. I'm not sure where they're taking them, but I know it's not in the village of Hebron.
There we go. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Gower?
West Licking had 8,988 runs last year. Got the year-end report if anybody wants to look at it.
Is
And
that for Hebron?
that was total,
The total West Licking?
but it's got a breakdown in here for Hebron and everything.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Carpenter?
I know we've talked about it before, but I'm not really seeing it. The Hendrickson truck issue, blocking, I know this past week. I even called in because you can't even get out of the post office. They're just not moving whatsoever.
So they are working on staging their deliveries a little bit more efficiently, but that's not a long-term solution for what they're working with. We are running into some challenges with our schedule, but I've been in contact with the owner of the building, the executives at Hendrickson and ODOT. And we are trying to schedule a time to meet with all of them and our administration to talk about potential solutions. One of which ODOT has a grant called Jobs and Commerce, which we're hoping will allow for some solutions. Southgate also owns the property directly behind that building. So looking at some potential access off of Integrity that will help resolve that solution. It's not going to be fixed right away, or even quickly. They're trying to mitigate it with the staging the best that they can. But we're hoping to find a long-term solution. And this is one of those sensitive situations, and this probably isn't what you want to hear, where we're trying to work with them and be patient, but also make it clear that this is an issue long-term, just because we don't want to be a hindrance on their business, but we don't want them to be a hindrance on our residents and our operations either. And so it's a very delicate situation, but they're being really cooperative, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to find some solutions in partnership with ODOT.
I suggest maybe a temporary sign that says don't block access to the post office
That's a great idea.
routes. Cause you literally couldn't get out. You gotta.
They were blocking even the post, because I've seen them staged on Newark Street too, which isn't ideal.
They're waiting patiently to get in. I understand
Yeah.
it, but to block it to where the residents are trapped. I mean, even if you had a fire issue,
Absolutely. Okay, and I know PD's gotten a few of those calls
Yeah,
as well.
if it's a blocking problem,
Mhm.
we can fix that. As far as them staging on the road, there's no place for us to send them. We don't wanna send them into town and back around, so they just kind of sit there and we do the best we can with that, but if they're blocking the entrance or exits, we would ask that one to move.
And unfortunately, it's not one of those situations where you tell one time and you think it's gonna be taken
Yeah.
care of, because these
The new truck.
particular drivers are new trucks. They're not their drivers. So that's been part of the challenge as well. But please don't hesitate to call in anytime you see that, so we can hopefully continue to address it.
You can't stage up to their other building?
The other building, it has very limited space as well. One of their biggest challenges with that building is their lack of parking for their employees. In all transparency, when I do these business retention and expansion visits, yes, I'm looking for parking lots that aren't filled and don't seem like they have activity. But I'm also looking for buildings that look like they're meeting capacity. And the reality is that if, we're not proactive and creative in finding some solutions for them, their only solution might be to go somewhere else, and we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Talk about expansion and their current site, talk about accommodations to the parking lot, just trying to work through those different things. They love being here in the village. They do believe that if they go to Columbus, where they have another location, or even farther into Newark, they're gonna be losing a lot of the workforce they pull from Perry County. So that's definitely not something they want to do. And so we're trying to work with them to make sure that that's not something they have to do.
Like you said, they could go to where the turnaround is, I call it, at the right directly across from Henderson. You can get 2 or 3 semis in,
Oh, you're talking about the,
but the
yeah.
problem is getting the truck drivers to know where it's at.
agreed. So hopefully when we sit down with them, we're gonna start talking about some communication pieces. My plan is to definitely have John Hunter in that conversation too, so we can work on if signage or some other things that we need to do on our part or options that we're offering that too.
Are they the ones, don't Hendrickson own where the big mound of dirt is?
No, so Southgate owns
Oh, that's
both the
Southgate.
properties that they occupy, so it's Southgate Corporation as the owner. He will be at the meeting as well, or a representation from their company. But Hendrickson has both the building that's right beside there, and then they also have the second location closest to the post office.
I thought they had the dirt.
Yeah.
They said they could just make some more parking.
Yeah, well, he said maybe that's a potential expansion location, right? If they will need to expand that other building for more space, long term.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Councilman Brewster.
Only thing I have, I forgot to mention in the last meeting, I wanted to thank the mayor for the end of the year report. It was great. I'm obligated to do it, but you're welcome. Good. It is good to get kind of a bird's eye view of the whole year, so, and I had a lot of great things to report, thanks to the team, so thank you all.
All right. I will take that. Mayor's report, I don't have a whole lot to report. Probably the highlight of one of the highlights of the last couple of weeks. Do you want to talk about the stakeholders meeting from yesterday?
I can, are you?
I'd like you to, if you don't mind.
And voluntold.
Yeah,
I saw that.
that's how it rolls.
As you're aware, we've been hosting monthly stakeholder meetings, and so meeting with a variety of people in January. We've made kind of January will be our annual small business stakeholder meeting. I was very, very happy with that turnout. We had 20+ businesses represented. The dialogue and conversation amongst everyone was really positive and collaborative. We've already seen some of our businesses in that room now work together on different things and post on social media. We've been able to engage some of these businesses as sponsors at our upcoming events and really find some creative ways to work with them. So it was just really positive to have everybody in the room and engaged and really excited about the work that we're all doing in the village to support our business community. And then yesterday, our February stakeholder meeting was with our veterans. We had the council or the conference room table was filled. I would have loved double that. But you know, we're building up from there. It was great. It was very interesting to see. I told Council President Wolf that it was interesting to hear that how different the dialogue was in that stakeholder group compared to our others. But it was great conversation. And everyone that was there was pretty actively engaged in the village already, so there wasn't too much update to get. The one thing that was really exciting for me is to understand the work that the American Legion does in the village. I was so impressed by how much they do that I had no idea. And so I'm hoping based on that new information for me, we can start connecting more residents to that. We can start helping promote the great work that they're doing in our newsletter and other ways in the community. And then hopefully potentially partner on some new things as well. So overall was definitely worth it. And I know this isn't why we want to do it, but I do think that when we get the opportunity to put this invite out on social media and people see that we're proactively trying to connect with these different sectors in our community, they're really happy and excited about how we're trying to get feedback and communicate with people. So I appreciate you allowing us to have the time to do that. If you ever see certain stakeholder invitations go out that you're really interested in, or maybe you fall into that stakeholder group and I just didn't realize it, please never hesitate. We're going to be doing some more creative stakeholder meetings in the upcoming months, and we'll keep you posted on those.
And you have a stakeholder meeting for miscellaneous.
Well, we are working towards a town hall this summer. So that could definitely be somewhat to that, where people will be able to get an update. We're also in that same vein, we're doing the 1-minute surveys. So that's what we're calling it. And so you might have saw in the last newsletter, we had a survey specific to transit. I am really trying. I don't have any choice because March 1st is on Sunday or Saturday. I have to get the February newsletter out. This short month is taking a toll on me. So the newsletter will go out this week and that will have our second survey. So we're hoping to use that too, to one, get more information, but also we might come up with some ideas on stakeholder groups we haven't thought of through those surveys as well. So, and if you have any topics that you'd like to suggest are on those surveys, because I need one every month. The mayor has been doing great and coming up with all the questions she wants to ask. But if there's anything that you think we should cover, we could definitely put it on the list.
What's in March?
March is specific to, February. So I had transit. February was that safety questions or, Yep, safety questions. And then March is about volunteering and engaging with the village.
So what is the stakeholder for?
Oh, the stakeholder for March. So that one's gonna be surrounded with the safety piece too. And then in April, we're actually gonna be meeting with our neighboring jurisdictions. We don't have this invite out yet, so if someone listens to this, it's not that they're not invited, I'm just not there yet. We're going to ask, of course, our police department to participate, of government officials from the village, the school district, the fire district, and then neighboring townships and communities that touch the village so that we can make sure that we're communicating. One thing I had found during my experience on the school board is a lot of times we're all working in our separate silos. For instance, you know, we might have a police levy at the same time there's a fire levy, and if we could prevent those things from happening by being in the same room and talking about them, then maybe we can work towards those goals a little bit more effectively. So that's the goal. It probably won't happen this first time as we're getting our feet wet with it, but hopefully over continued time, it'll do that work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you talk about purple area?
No, I did not.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
These, I believe there are residents concerning about the air quality issue because we have some company coming in, recycling, plastic or anything else. So we have reached out to the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission to see what kind of air monitoring devices that they have. They monitor the air quality for the entire Central Ohio. So they provide us the contact with the company. It's called the Purple Air. So we were looking at purchasing some monitoring devices that can be available for the residents or for the village offices, so we can constantly monitoring the air quality issues.
If they find that there's a problem, are they empowered to advise the village on how to have that terrible air dissipate?
I think probably what we're going to just elevate that issue up to the Ohio EPA. Because they have ultimate jurisdiction over the air quality. Yeah, but if we don't have this monitoring issue, we don't know where we are. So that's the first step, that we need to know what the baseline is.
Last Saturday, a new factory out there was trying things and black smoke was just a roll. Luckily it was going down.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things that went through my mind.
Yeah.
And so I Googled because I did not know this. I mean, intuitively, we know that weather patterns come through west to east. But I didn't know, is it northwest? Is it northeast? And I guess that during the summer, the wind tends to go to the southeast. Because I was wondering, is this weather or is this air approaching the schools? Because these are, young people in development. And it turns out during the summer, it goes towards the school, and during the rest of the year, it tends to go to Heath. So not necessarily better, but it certainly was top of mind for me. And, of course, if it was coming southwest, I wouldn't have been very happy about that at all.
Well, the county newer does the same thing, depends which way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then the other thing I just want to mention, we have been working, as you know, but I'm just going to say it anyway. We've been working really hard on trying to figure out how to communicate flooding and what we're doing to mitigate it. We talked through some approaches that we are planning on taking in the next few couple of months, probably, of how it'll end up playing out. But we are trying very hard to get our arms around how to get this out to the residents so they understand how their money has been invested, how their time is being invested, so that we can hopefully make some big differences in what the impact is on our residents in the long run. So you should be seeing some of that in the coming weeks. Okay, I'm gonna skip visitor comments because we don't have visitors, and move right into review of expenses. Unless otherwise noted, it's understood that council members have reviewed the expense report and have no questions. Okay. Just call your attention to the upcoming meetings and events. And unless there's anything else, I am seeking a motion to adjourn at 6:49.
So move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion from Councilmember Porter and a second from Councilmember Chapman.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter. Yes.
Thank you, Council.